All right. Okay. So, Mila, do you want to give a little summary about the discussion that we had, or do you want to just carry on?
That's a good question. We kind of discussed a lot, a lot in these, the summary of the discussion we had in the beginning, while everybody else was joining, was primarily different participants giving over their experiences based on the work that we requested the group to do, which was to write our own meditation, our own hisbonenus, specifically pertaining to the material that we have learned, specifically on the levels that we discussed, which was to start with iyun, walk all the way till the level of mamik. By each tab, describe briefly what the level is about. And then from mamik, go down and discuss each levels that on the way down till we reach the level of iyun. And a few participants shared what they thought that would be. And we also discussed that in that process of us trying to put ourselves together and actually come up with the first draft, we definitely will be going through some obstacles. And these obstacles we need to approach with self-compassion. That was the bottom line. As long as we are doing it, as long as we are aware that we need to do it. And there's actually a funny story of one mashpia when he came to Bahrain, and it was Friday. No, it was Shabbos, and there's the so-quote minhag not to daven mincha right after davening of Shacharis. Why? Because usually that's a balabatisha minhag. So you daven mincha right after Shabbos davening, you make your kiddush, and then you could sleep until Shabbos is over. So the Chassidus guys, they actually daven mincha at the latest point. If you notice in 770, the mincha is like right before shkia type of thing. And interestingly, it's done for the reason, so you're not just sitting and sleeping your whole afternoon. You have mincha in your head. And this mashpia was dealing with Bahrain. I believe it was Yeshiva Ktana or Yeshiva Gdola, I'm not sure. So he was going through the rooms Friday afternoon, Shabbos afternoon, and he sees Bahrain sleeping. So he knocks, is like, mincha, 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 mincha. And one Bachar wakes up and he says, I already daven mincha. He was like, what? So his disappointment is like, really? Like, you don't even have, besides the fact that you're sleeping Shabbos afternoon, but you even daven mincha. So he was kind of like criticizing this Bachar, is like how corrupt can you get? Mainly if you would sleep and you would know on your head that you need to daven mincha. So that consciousness would at least not make you so comfortable. But here you are going to sleep Shabbos afternoon, like balabatish, it's like, this is it. I took care of everything. I even daven mincha. So just the fact that we have in our consciousness that, okay, we need to get to a point where we need to do what we need to do. Although we didn't do it, I think we're in a better place. Yeah. Okay, so let's set intention. Again, Baruch Hashem, we are doing amazing. Look what happened with news in Canada. I think these are amazing news. And yeah, this is amazing news. So we see how we're making some waves in creating the right environment for the world, with support to Israel, definitely securing the borders of Israel. and definitely expanding them. B'ezrat Hashem, as soon as we see how things and events in the world so easily removing different leaders that opposed to the security of Eretz Israel in such a miraculous way, like we see with Syria and we see with Canada. B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to see more of this in the world. We just need to focus on our avodas hamaychin and do what we need to do. And B'ezrat Hashem, Neria is going to do the summary, and we actually prepared something funny for you today. Yeah, we wanted to kind of, change the vibes in our group, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it, Neria.
Okay. So I just wanted to, get our headspace. Where are we? What have we been learning the last couple of weeks? And really, we're in a situation where we're coming to the end of a major section in this chapter. So we're going to learn paragraph 13, which goes into more detail about the process of Iyun, which is our process, the process we go through as a makabel. And up until now, these 13 paragraphs, Reb Hillel Aparich has been describing to us the process of the mashpia and now the process of the makabel. Like how really a new idea comes into the world, and then how we receive it and get access to our own infinite power of koach hamaskil. And so from next week, we're going to be learning a whole different level of detail. So it's really important to have a grasp on the process until now. And it's really not difficult. They're really about 10 different stages, that's all. And most of them we're quite familiar with, because we have the right brain, the left brain, chokhmah, bina, and the middle brain, das. And those are three things that we all know from Tanya, from whatever other places. And we've learned those in some detail. Now, I'm just going to do the process of the mashpia, just run through that, and it should be something that's fairly familiar. So imagine, look, the process of being makabel is more familiar to us. But in order to understand as a makabel where we're going, we need to understand where things are coming from. So the mashpia, say a rebbe, a real rebbe, has a desire to share a godly concept, a concept not just 1 + 2, 1 + 1 = 2, but something very deep. And so there's his desire, his ratzon. And the next stage is that he activates his maimek, which is the das, which means his connection to the koach hamaskil, this place of infinite possibility of ideas, of concepts, and focuses the koach hamaskil on this one particular idea that he wants to give to us. And that maimek is activating, it's a form of das, so it's a deep connection to the koach hamaskil to then produce this new idea, which activates, let's say, just the oimek of chokhmah. And the idea flashes into the right brain through the oimek of chokhmah into the rochav of chokhmah like a flash of lightning. And we've all experienced that, that like flash of an idea, like where did it come from? Chokhmah, like where is that from? And that's within that idea, it's like that lightning that lights up the whole surroundings. And for a minute, you're not in the darkness and you see it. You just get it. Now, in order to hold on to that, you have to, what is activated next is the orech of chokhmah. which begins to take that, what was seen and sensed in that flash, and begins to to put explanation to it, understandings to it, to begin to find explanations that then, with the help of Hamakas Hadas, which is once again this strong connecting force, connects it to the left brain, and you get this like transition into the left brain through the Omek of Bina, and then it appears in the left brain as the Rochav of Bina. That's where it first appears, but it goes through the Omek of Bina. And in this Rochav of Bina, suddenly you have all these explanations and understandings of that is enclothing this essence of the experience, but it's making it accessible. It's creating garments for it, the garments of letters, of explanations, of something tangible, something more tangible that we can begin to work with. And that is the Rochav of Bina. And then to bring it even further down. So the Rochav of Bina is really where how we understand it for ourselves. But in order to really give it over to somebody else, or to make it understood by a small child, which is sometimes our mind, can be the small child, then you need the Orech of Bina, which takes not just many explanations and understandings, but puts it into new garments and makes mashalim, like a mashal that is not the thing itself, but makes the thing more understandable or more accessible based on the world that we know. Now, that's the process. So then you get to the Orech of Bina, which we also know is called the Bina of Bina, like the understanding of understanding. And that's the whole process of the mashpia, going from the highest level of abstract, the most abstract of Koach HaMaskil, all the way down and across, all the way down through Chochmah, across into Bina, and then down to the smallest child to help them to understand, you know, a concept. Now, the Makabel starts at the place where the mashpia ends, and that is the Bina of Bina, the Orech of Bina. And that's where the double nun happens, because the mashpia is meeting the Makabel in that place. And the nun, the bent nun, is the nun of that is required of the Makabel to begin the process, to be bitul, to have hachna, you know, like to give over to the process. And the long nun is the orech, the bringing down that the mashpia has done. That's, you know, like we said, like the river that goes long. So that's the long nun. And so that's the place where the mashpia and the makabel meet. Now, the process of, you can just stay, many of us really just stay in that place forever, in that Bina of Bina, and we don't work our way back up through the process because it requires real depth and concentration and repetition. So this is what we're going to be learning about today, is really the process that the makabel needs to go through so that they don't stay in Bina of Bina or the Orech of Bina. They move up to the Rochav of Bina and eventually get to the Omek of Bina, where you begin to sense what the mashpia saw in that flash of lightning, the essence of the thing. You begin to sense that essence. And then you make this transition from the left brain back to the right brain. It's really, you know, it's like swimming upstream. And interestingly, that's what a Jew is meant to do. I read an explanation of why in this week's Parsha or last week's Parsha, Yaakov says that we should bless our children to be like Ephraim and Manasseh, who are like fish. And it says it's like, one of the commentaries says it's like the fish of salmon. Why? Because they swim upstream. You know, they were born in Mitzrayim, but they had to, we as Jews, we swim against the current. And this is the work of swimming against the current, because usually it's just easy, you know, to go from, just to stay where it's easy. But here the work is going up, and then the benefits are huge. When you swim against the current, you build enormous strength. And also you get access to your Koach HaMaskil. And then you're able to bring down your own insights and your own infinity. Okay, so Miriam is asking, could you clarify the 3 levels of Da'at Elyon? Okay, so Da'at Elyon really has 2 levels, and it's what we studied not last week, but the week before, where you have the first level is Hamakas Hadas, which joins the Chochmah and Bina. So it's between the 2 brains. And then the higher level is Ma'amik. And Ma'amik is the level that joins Chochmah to the Koach HaMaskil. So those are the 2 levels of Da'at Elyon. Das Tachton is the one that we're usually familiar with when you say Chochmah Bina Das, and then you look at the Das that joins to the emotions, to Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet. That's the Das Tachton. And so these are 2 levels of Das Elyon. Okay, so now, before we go into reading the paragraph itself on Eon, Mila and I created a document that contains, I'm going to show it to you here. Mila, did you share it on the WhatsApp group?
Yeah, I shared it on both in the group, in the WhatsApp chat, and also in the chat here on Zoom. It's a PDF document that you could open and enjoy.
So the idea is, what we've done is we've taken 5 of the approximately 10 concepts, and I think we have to be honest about how we created it, or should we tell them afterwards?
We'll tell them afterwards.
Okay, so there are 5 riddles that describe different levels or different parts of this process. And we want to see if you can have some fun and figure out what riddle corresponds to what part of this process.
Yeah. Again, just to clarify, yeah, we're talking about not just concepts in general, but the levels specifically. Are we talking about Hamakas Hadas? Are we talking about Maimik? Are we talking about Bina, Chochmah, or Das? Or we're talking about Omek of Bina and all these things. So we're not going to tell too much, because then it just going to defeat the purpose. So you basically need to go on a breakout room, read the riddle. There are 5 riddles. And just think, what do you think that refers to?
So we'll give you about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll.
Okay, so the breakout rooms are open. Enjoy.
Nechama, Batya, you're not able to join? Batya, you're muted. We can't hear you.
And Amaro.
Okay.
So let's reflect. Yeah, let's reflect. What was the experience? Who wants to be the pioneer and share their experiences?
Diti, you look like you're talking, but you muted.
I said, first of all, thank you for putting together such lovely rhymes.
Okay, by law, we have to tell you that it was AI generated.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, last night we got together with Nuria and we were thinking about what can we do new, and an idea popped into our mind, and we're like, okay, let's play a little bit, because
So what's ChatGPT?
yeah, we did that. We put in the information, and we said create a riddle, and it created a riddle. And we're like, okay, I think we'll enjoy it. We had to adjust because we had to adjust a few things, because whatever it was creating, it obviously wasn't fully grasping all the nuances. And it was actually satisfying because we felt a little bit smarter than ChatGPT.
No, it was the opposite. I was horrified. I felt like I was completely don't need a human being, but you basically need a human being to input the information and to adjust it. But that's like that there's a third person in the room who's doing some of the work.
You know what's so funny? Just last night at maybe like midnight, I had the first urge that I'm going to go to AI, and I opened up and it was ChatGPT and said you had to log in. Did you have to make an account with a password and whatever?
And I personally not so much involved with AI, but I have just a free version. It allows you to have free version.
In other words,
I log in with my email.
You log in with your email.
I don't think this is the place for us to discuss that. Can we move on? I'm sure you can find out from other sources.
I'm just curious, what did you put in? Just like the kind of things that are in the notes, a summary of each one?
Yeah, just like we know the definition of okay, so let's go over it. I exist in a place that's hidden within, beyond the layers that shield the mind spin. A power to understand, endless and true. A potential so deep it's beyond view. What am I?
skill.
Yay! Great. Yes, it is good.
Did everybody get that?
Yeah, I think this was the easiest one.
Okay.
No, two of them were the easiest. A couple of them were not so clear.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yes, it is. It is indeed koach hamaskil. Now, we put the definition of koach hamaskil, and he was able to use that information as a stepping stone to create this rhyming situation.
In fact, I want to point you to the fact that where did we get the definitions from? There's a document that's on the Google Drive called Hebrew Translation, and it's got all these definitions in Hebrew and English. It was created to help you to have these definitions available. That's where we got them from. So,
Okay, so let's go to the second one. I'm the power that brings forth new thought. From koach hamaskil, fresh concepts are thought. Right? I actively engage to make ideas flow. New wisdoms emerge and understandings grow. What am I?
I think it's Hamakas Hadas.
Mami.
But first we thought Mimic, and then I thought maybe Hamakas Hadas, because new wisdoms and understandings grow, so it's bringing it down. Chachma and Bina.
So you're right, that would make it confusing.
Mimic. We thought it's mimic. Because I'm the power that brings forth new thought.
That's the first sentence
Great.
is Mimic.
That's great thinking. Yes, it is.
Oh, but then the next, we confused it, right? So it started as Mimic, and then it turned into Hamakas Hadas. I don't know.
Oh,
Right, where ideas flow, new wisdoms emerge, and understanding grow. Right, so this understanding grow it's a little bit overlapping with Amakasadas.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
Koach HaMaskil or Maimik?
I'm sorry, Mamik. It was my mistake. I was kind of looking up while doing it. That's great. That's you're very attentive.
Yeah. It's almost like the first two lines are mimic and the second two lines could be Makasadas.
So good, it follows the process. Excellent.
Yeah.
Right. No, we need to adjust that one. I remember we worked a lot. We didn't like what it did, and then we asked them to do something different and add this and remove that. You need to work to program it to give you. Okay, let's move on. I connect to ideas deep and true, gathering all my thoughts to view. My mind and soul I dedicate. On one idea I concentrate.
Okay, this one's a no-brainer, right?
I don't know, depends for who.
Depends who's brain.
Huh?
Okay, let's hear from somebody, from other people. Shosh, what did you get for this one?
Just, oh, we were together.
Okay, she's all
She's,
right.
she's there, she's there. She just out, she's floats in and out sometime with her connection.
Miriam, what did you get for this? You muted, you muted.
I'm not too sure how Amak Hadas. Let's see. Something to do with Das.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, it's Das.
Mm,
It's a general description of Das, not
Yeah.
specifically mimic or Makasadas.
Das doesn't have
Oh.
these body parts. It doesn't have like these three components like the other two have. It's just Das, right?
Right.
Yes, you're right.
It's not understanding.
Das, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, some of the last line is really the best description. On one idea, concentrate,
And connect.
connect.
These are the two key words.
Yeah.
And also gathering all my thoughts. Well, gathering all my thoughts also could imply Eon process. Because remember, he is gathering all his thoughts. He uses that for Eon as well.
Mm.
Okay. I take an idea deep and true and dress it up for you. With words and thoughts, I make it clear, revealed for minds both far and near. What am I?
Alkalea, you unmute yourself and tell it. No. Okay. Who wants to?
Yoni, you want to do it?
Arechav Bina.
Bina, great, yeah. Specifically Rachav Bina, and also could be Orechav Bina. So we put just general Bina because far and near, the word far would imply the Orechav Bina, right? Just taking it very, very far.
Yeah.
So it was just like a general description of Bina that encompasses all of it. Okay.
It's interesting if you look at it. Look, I take an idea deep and true. That's like oimek of Bina, and dress it up for all to view. With words and thoughts, I make it clear. That's like the Rachav. And there's the Orach, revealed for minds, both far and near. Interesting, right?
Oh, great. Yeah, terrific.
Yet within it are all those levels.
Beautiful. Wow.
Yes, I hold the essence of an idea, yet no words I need to appear. No letters, no garments, no disguise.
Disguise.
Disguise, right. I'm pure thought, simple and wise.
Omek of Chochmah?
Just Chachma.
Yeah, it's a general description of Chochmah. Now, could we see where the oimek is and the Rachav and the Orach? Interesting. But I think that's an amazing description of Chochmah. I hold the essence of an idea, yet no words I need to appear, no letters, no garments, no disguise. I'm pure thought, simple and wise. Brilliant.
Okay, so I see we are bringing Chassidus to AI as well.
So why isn't it Tamsis of Bina? The very essence of the Bina that is beyond words.
Because then it's Chachma. Remember, when we spoke about Omek HaMusag, the general description of Omek was very essential for us to delve into. Remember, the Omek doesn't have, it's not an entity on its own. There's no Omek of Bina without being already holding on to the feet of Chachma. He was interestingly, specifically, deliberately giving us 3 mashtalim on Omek, making sure that we understand that Omek is a state of bittul. When you are in a state of bittul, you don't hold your own essence. It's like you cannot take a selfie in Atzilus, basically, right? Because there's no sense of self. Like you can't, it's the same thing, because Atzilus represents the world of Omek. There's no entity there. So it's the same idea. Like you can't take a selfie. You can't have sense of self in order to go and tell your children I visited Atzilus, because there you wouldn't be aware of where are you. You would be a pure consciousness, a pure experience without self-reflection. Because self-reflection is when we take an idea and then we reflect within our own kalim. Right? That's what we do. So the same thing is here. When you are in Omek of Bina, you're already not in Bina. You're in Chachma. So therefore, there's no entity. There's no description. So therefore, we don't even describe the Omek of Bina because we're describing Chachma already.
That's very helpful. And that I have a question that's a little similar. When I had in my flow chart, I wrote about the Eirech of Chachma, that I took it out from the text. That is the kayach to bring down etzem haskalas ha'inyan, to be malvishid into the hesber of bina. So that's what I wrote. And so now, is it something happening in Chachma, or is it only acting as a bridge?
Giti, do you want to ask again?
Yeah. So for
Sure. Yeah.
Chachma, I took from the text that it says about it that it's the kayach lahashpil etzem haskalas ha'inyan lahalbitay behesber de bina.
That's the orach of Chachma.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is that taking place in Chachma, or is it just a bridge bringing it into Bina?
No, that's a good question, because remember, he never said that Bina doesn't have space on its own, doesn't have an entity on its own. There was never a language like that, right?
So it does.
Only specifically for Omek.
Okay.
So there is a space where we could actually point at the process that we could point at that talks about that halbasha process in Chachma.
It's called the Bina of Chachma, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a Bina of Chachma. There is a place like that, and we cannot say that it's ayin. There is no ayin there, at least at this point, right? It's not koach ha'ayin. It's not. Well, essentially, it is. Its basis off of koach ha'ayin to receive. That will be the bittul to give, because any teacher has to have bittul to the students.
Okay.
Right. And this is the chiddush of Chassidus, right? Because later on, he is going to say that you need to have iyun by the mashpia as well. There is a process of iyun by the mashpia. That's Bina of Bina. What it mean? What does this mean? Meaning, Chachma sees, let's imagine Chachma is an individual. Okay. The Chachma sees things in a specific way, in a very visual way, okay, in a very bright way, in a very concrete way. And it has tremendous amount of oneg. right? Because it says Pnimius Abba, Pnimius Atik.
Correct.
Is that famous Yichud.
Correct.
So it's an excitement. It's a pure joy of whatever that concept may be. And it's so clear. It's Barak HaMavrik. It's at the moment where the Barak is enlightening all corners of the person's world, of the person's mind. It's like, wow, this is me. This is my identity. Now I need to explain it to somebody who is not having this experience.
Yeah.
Imagine you're Arizal and you're having this vision, okay, of godliness where Hashem is so revealed inside, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's a vision, okay, and yet you need to give it over to your students. What are you going to do? You need to put aside the way you see things, right? Because you cannot make them be you, right? Like, imagine you are Arizal. I don't know if you could envision that, right? Imagine you are experiencing something tremendously powerful and very, very vivid. This is Chokhmah. It's a very vivid experience. And Arizal wrote that whatever he saw would take him 70 years to explain. 70. Okay? What does this mean? Because it's experience. It's like, imagine you went somewhere. I don't know, you went boating, or you went, I don't know, to Eretz Israel, and or you experienced something so vivid where all your senses were involved. How long will it take you to describe it to somebody else? So in order for that to happen, instead of saying, you know what, forget about it. No, nothing. I did not experience anything. Okay. How long will it take you to explain it to somebody who is on a lower level than you? Let's imagine Arizal had a Rebbe as his buddy, okay? And both of them, he is experiencing whatever he is experiencing, and the Rebbe is in the room and seeing what he is experiencing. Would Arizal work so hard to describe to the Rebbe what he was going through? Not necessarily, because the Rebbe is his caliber person, right? They could communicate on a totally different level. They don't need to have a whole verbal explanation and blah, 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 and explain, because let's say they're going to say, I experienced the level of seraphim, okay? Let's imagine, right? Do you know what seraphim is? I have no idea who they are. I've never seen them. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know who they are. So in order for him to describe what was his vision, he had to first explain, meaning we call it background information, right? In teaching. We first have to explain who are the components, who are the playing parts there.
Why did you say
Explain the
embedded?
play.
What's the word you used? Embedded or something else?
It's called background information.
Background. Oh, okay.
Meaning I need to explain all who, it's like, teaching little kids. Okay, if they don't know what a store means, if they never went to a store, or they never went to a post office, you can't really talk about the processes in the post office. You first need to describe why we need to send a mail. There is a paper, and I want to write a message to somebody, and who is going to deliver it, and how it's going to be delivered, right? So you have to describe the whole process in order, then when they have a full picture, then you could describe your experiences going to the post office, right? So this is what we're talking about. So when we're talking about Chachma, it's basically somebody who is experiencing this vivid experience of something that fully engages his entire body, okay? And he needs to communicate that to somebody else who does not have this experiences, and moreover, doesn't even know what he's talking about to begin with, doesn't have a background knowledge to be shared. So it's a painful process of the mashpia to put away, and we call it hanachas atzmos, right? Meaning he needs to put away the way he sees now that particular situation. And what he needs to do is to go in the process and describe it, based on the kalim of the makabel, and this is the key word also. Now he needs to measure the makabel's ability to understand, whether it's a 2-year-old, whether it's sometimes you just, if you're going through a particular rough experience and your 2-year-old is there, what are you going to tell them? You're going to tell them everything is beautiful, everything is okay, everything is under control, because this is what he needs to hear. You're not going to go into the whole explanation, right? Because for a 2-year-old, he just wants to know, am I safe or not safe? That's it. So you need to communicate safety for them. For a 4-year-old, you might give more information. For a 6-year-old, you might give a little bit more information, and so on and so forth, right? So that's what it is. It's in that communication of who do you think you're giving. And so this process is also requires a lot of bittul. That will depend on how they were able to receive that particular experience. Are they able to put them aside the way they see it? And here's the key word, and package that information in such a way that it does not dilute the essence. Remember, there has to be das in between. There's das elyon between Chachma and Bina. He's like a patrol, making sure that the essence is transmitted to Bina.
So is he
Can I make-
preparing his teaching lesson in the Orech of Chachma so that he can
So
transmit
that
it
would be
in Bina?
exactly, yes. So Orech of Chachma is putting aside the way I see it in my Rochav of Chachma, okay, so I can communicate it to the Bina.
Okay.
And it's going to be
Can I
bunch
make a
of-
comment on that?
Sure.
So you're describing teaching Basi Lagani this year to the world because it's deeply Kabbalistic. And also you're saying with the child, you have to make it pleasant to him. You may be teaching him a concept that he doesn't feel good about hearing because it doesn't make him feel safe. And you have to understand that concept so deeply that even though it feels unsafe to everybody, you have to make that concept feel warm and cozy and safe to the child. Like you have to go even deeper than just giving him the explanation and, bring it down to his level, because he may not feel safe when you explain it even on his level. So you have to go even deeper and find a way to make it feel safe for him. That's what I hear you saying, which is exactly this year's Basi Lagani. It's deeply Kabbalistic. It's also talking about concealment after concealment, which nobody wants to hear, which means we have to understand Basi Lagani so deeply that everybody's going to find it very exciting to hear it and not say, oh boy, I'm not looking forward to the coming
Exactly.
year.
And not
But
to
we have to
feel
make it-
overwhelmed. Exactly. And not to feel overwhelmed.
Right.
Exactly. Because,
Right.
but at the same time, let me tell you, one of the tactics that a lot of mashpim use, I'm talking about mashpim, not mashpim in our sense, I'm talking about the Rebbeim, right? The tzaddikim, is that when the kalim of the makabel are so coarse, when makabel doesn't have a state of bittul to receive, because remember, that was another component of the makabel, right? It has to be willing to receive and have a state of bittul. What happens sometimes is that they will say something overwhelming in order to create the bittul. They will confuse. You will notice a lot of times there's an element of confusion in many ma'amarim, where they will say something where you're like, wait a second, I don't understand. Didn't you say this? Didn't you say that? And you just get like that confused, that confusion, that to put you in a state of bittul. So you are able to receive, because as Naria pointed out, it's not about information. Every mimer is supposed to transform us, not just give us a bunch of information. It's not about information that we are missing. And a lot of times, not a lot of times, there were times that Rabbi would repeat exactly same mimer word for word. And there was one instance when Tzemach Tzedek did this, and Rabbi Hillel said that it was a totally new mimer, because the intentions were different. Although they were the same words, the intentions were different, and that's where we need to pick up. What is the intention of the mimer? And when we see the intention of the mimer, that's Omek HaMusak for us. That's when we're able to take all the words of the mimer and see what is the intention. Why is Rebbe telling this to me? That's Omek HaMusak, basically. We're putting all the information and we're condensing it on an intention. And that changes from mimer to mimer because not everything is the same.
Mila, we're nearly at an hour and a half. You think we should really go into the text? Or should we say we'll do it next week, do it next week?
I guess maybe we should vote.
Because it's a lot, it's a long paragraph. It's not a quick paragraph.
Right.
What we could do to make it easier is we could look at the English summary, like go through the English summary and just understand it on a pshat level. And maybe next week go into it in the Hebrew, and also really ask people to do the homework and see if we can then, use that Hisbonenus experience next week. Because really this paragraph does end, it's almost like, sorry to say this, but this is the background information that he's given us up till now. Like, in order for me to tell you what I really want to tell you, you have to understand this process, up, down, up, of how information comes into the system. And now he's going to start to go kind of on a much deeper trajectory.
Right. And he's going to do definitely Yehudim to make us understand, because we still did not answer one question. Up until now, the first question, remember the third question, the initial that we had, why Bina and not Chachma, is still not answered. Up until now, all what we know that Bina and Chachma both come from Koach HaMaskil. But it doesn't explain us how Bina has advantage over Chachma and why the mitzvah of Yichud Elokus is given by the mitzvah of Yichud Elokus is given through Bina and not through Chachma, because it says Shema Yisrael. Why Shema Yisrael? If they're both equal, if the Chachma is so beautiful, we just described, Chachma is the vision. Chachma is all the beautiful things that we just discussed. It's a full body experience. That's where paradigm shifts takes place. All these beautiful things, like, okay, so why mitzvah that Rambam states that it's Amuda Chachmais, right? It's the pillar of all wisdom. Like, really has to be Bina. Why Bina? That's where he's going to take us on a journey to explain the advantage of Bina. And that's why this mitzvah is given with Bina and not with Chachma. But we need to know, as Naria said, all this information so we can understand and appreciate what is he going to say from, paragraph 14 and on.
Thing about Bina that is revealed to us, and we can only get to Chochma through Bina.
We can only get to Bina through Chachma.
Well,
depends which way you're looking at it. This famous cartoon to, there's a 6 or 9, two guys are sitting and staring at it, One says, no, it's 6. The other one says, no, it's 9. I mean, they both are right.
They're both right.
So you're right. Down, up, down, up, we face with Bina. We're like, okay, hey, what do we do? This is our Bina.
So
that's what Bina is. What do we do? What do we do with it? Chachma is the flash. So I've got the flash. So now what do I do with it? That's the Bina.
Right.
So we need the Bina. Otherwise, the flash is beautiful. But what do I do with it? How am I going to incorporate it into my life?
Right. This is when you have a flash. But, I don't get flashes. that often, right? This is when I'm generating the concept from within me. Here, and I'll tell you, sometimes it's very boring because you use the same system. You didn't upgrade your system. You use the same system. So your flashes are coming through the same trajectory. And sometimes it's boring. What if you want to go deeper? Okay, you want to have that transformation in your thought process. That's when you go to learn a mimer, because the Rebbe suggests a different way of looking at things, a different thought process. Okay, and when we go through that transformative experience of learning a mimer, or what we're doing here, right, is looking through Das Elyon. Because when we always look through Das Tachton, we only could access a lower level of aquifer, if you know what we're talking about, right? A lower level of Koach HaMaskil. It generates ideas, but it may not be so deep. It's quite shallow. How can I go through that breakthrough? What access do I have? What tools do I have to go through that breakthrough and grasp something deeper, bring an experience, a deeper concepts going through me, through my mind. Obviously, I need to have a content, which is what we have, right? It's a content on Seder Ishtalshalos at the moment, and the Yigia and the effort that we're going to be putting into. These two together, that's what will create, these are the tools for us to have access to deeper awareness of Das Elyon. At certain
So deeper
point
awareness is down up?
of Das Elyon, right, it's down up. Now,
Okay.
we're first going to access the first Das Elyon, which is what? Amakasadas, right? Down up. Iyun, through Omek HaMusag, will allow us to enter into the stage of Das Elyon, which is Amakasadas, meaning I'll be able to bring in new insight into already existing concept that we accepted, we received. And then through even going further, we're able to reach our own Koach HaMaskil and bring in new concepts that we weren't able to do up until then.
Mm-hmm.
Nuri, you want to do the English summary?
Yeah, I'll do that. Obviously, it's not the same as reading the Hebrew, but I think given the short amount of time that we have, at least it's a beginning. Okay, so last week we started to understand the process of the mashpia going from down up, and that's the process of Iyun. So in-depth analysis, or Iyun, brings a person to the depth of the explanation known as Omek of Bina and its inner point, Tamsita. So that's a general description. We don't have to understand it right away because he's going to explain that. So he's basically saying that the Iyun the Bina will start at Bina of Bina and will end up at Omek of Bina. That's where the Iyun will bring us. Then the Amakasadas is activated. So from the Omek of Bina, the Amakasadas is activated. What is the Amakasadas? This is the focus of all the powers of his mind to connect to the depth of the idea, the Omek HaMusag. This connection transcends the revealed comprehension in the Orech and Rochav. I think that what he's saying there is that in the Orech and Rochav of Bina, you have a different level of understanding. But once you get to the Omek HaMusag, the Omek of Bina, and the Amakasadas is activated, you're in a completely different experience. You're starting to touch the essence. I think Mila was really describing this.
Is that also Bina of Bina, Omek HaMasug?
No, Bina of Bina is Iyun. Omek of Bina is Omek HaMusag. It's just another way of saying it.
Okay, it's just another term.
It's just another term. I think it's more of a Kabbalistic term. HaMusag means, the musag means the concept. the depth of the concept.
Mhm.
Is that correct? Musag in Hebrew? Yeah. So that's Hamakas Hadas is activated once you in the Oimek of Bina. Okay, so now in parenthesis, he says, through Iyun, he only reaches the depth, the Oimek, that is enclosed in the explanation of the Orech and Rochav.
And not what? It says only that, but not what?
What I think, and we'll see this more in the Hebrew, is because it's parenthesis, what he is clarifying is the line above. This connection transcends the revealed comprehension in the Orech and Rochav, meaning that Iyun only takes him to a certain level of depth that is enclosed in the Orech and Rochav. But once he hits the Oimek, it's a different level of depth, and the Iyun, Mila, actually, I also had a question around that. I feel that what he's saying is that the Iyun, which starts in Bina of Bina, which is the Orech of Bina, and takes him to the Rochav and brings him to the Oimek, but at that point, it's almost like the steam of Iyun runs out. It's no longer Iyun. It gets transformed into a completely
Into Hamakas Hadas.
Hamakas Hadas
We
takes.
discussed it, that Iyun is like a shuttle. Because we are not aligned in the middle line, we're not. Okay, middle line is that we are connected with MS at all times, right? We are in Malchus, in Yesod, in Tiferes, in Das Tachton. This is the middle line. Okay. When we are completely on the outside and we're like, okay, well, what's going on? We need to activate our left side. Why left side? Because what do we need to do? We need to get over, right? We need to hisgabros, lehisgaber, right? We need to use our gevura side to climb over the seeming obstacles that we have within ourselves that prevent us to swim up the stream, basically. Right? So we have our own, this protective cocoons, our comfort zones. And in order for us to be misgaber on our comfort zones, we need to activate our Bina, because this is our left side. And we're using it for advantage. We use it all the time. Okay. Let's say you want to wake up in the morning, 5 o'clock to, I don't know, for whatever reason, you use your left side. You cut yourself off sugars, or you want to do exercises, or whatever. We constantly use our gevura for these things. So, meaning you naturally would want to do something differently, but you use a system in a way, whatever system you create out there. So the same thing is here. When I want to go into my inner mode, when I want to go to my essence mode, which is my middle line, I need to use my Iyun. So my Iyun is going to bring me to, it's like a shuttle that's going to give me to the main train station. That will allow me now to access my Das. My Das is going to allow me to connect to the essence of the idea. And through that, it's going to go all the steps up there. From Bina to Chochma, from Chochma to Koach HaMaskil, and from Koach HaMaskil to my Ratzon, and access all the levels and stay on a true track, which is the Das. But what if I don't have a Das? What am I supposed to do? I'm a failure, that's it, like I'm doomed? No, there is a Koach, which is called Iyun, which is a Bina of Bina, that will say, no problem, I'll get you to the main train station. But these are the, you need to buy a ticket.
It's almost like he's trying to describe something that maybe we've never experienced, or maybe we have, and he's trying to put words to something very abstract. This is what I understand it, is that Iyun is a very conscious process that we can all do. You can take this, we kind of doing Eon now. We're on the most external part of understanding this, their letters, their descriptions. So we can, how do I have access to it? I read it, I try to understand it. But if I read it over and over and over again, and all of it over again, I will get to the Oimek HaMusag. I will begin to sense what he's really saying. And at that point, I don't have to use those faculties of Eon. Something else will kick in. And that is the faculty of Das, which means that I'm connected to it. It's no longer outside of me. I'm one with it. And then it's almost like a paradigm shift. And this is what he explains. Let's continue and see how he puts it. So then he says, so we understand that we're in the Oimek of Bina, and that's when Hamakas Hadas kicks in. And the Hamakas Hadas, unlike the Eon process, now we finished with Eon, we're into this Das where we fully connected, because Das suggests intimacy. We're one with it. So the Hamakas Hadas brings him to the essence of Chokhmah that is enclosed in the Oimek HaMusag. So we're still in the Oimek HaMusag, we're still in the Oimek of Bina, but the Hamakas Hadas connects us to the essence there. That it gives us an experience or a beginning of the sensing of that flash of Chokhmah, that Baraka Maverick. Then Hamakas Hadas creates the bond between Chokhmah and Bina. We know that Das is always about bonding, and here it takes us from this realm of Bina, which is all about words and explanations, into Chokhmah, which is all about sensing and experiencing. And that's what the Hamakas Hadas does. And now he is now able to discover new explanations with which to enclose this intellectual concept. Parenthesis, why? How can he discover new explanations? Like, what does that mean? This is because the intellectual concept, meaning the essence of it, is the power of a Yuli relative to the explanation of Bina. So for one concept, you can find many explanations. There are many ways to explain a particular truth.
Yeah, for example, I could give one explanation about this whole process, right? Just an idea came to me, like dating, right? Okay. That's what just happened to me, right? As you were speaking, my mind was working. I was like, oh, and all of a sudden an idea of dating came into me. That's exactly what we do. We go out on a date with somebody. We have no idea who that is, right? Well, we read a resume. Somebody suggested us as an amazing shidduch. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And we go out and we talk, right? Words, again, this is the Bina. This is our Orech of Bina with the Orech of Bina, right? And we talk and we talk and we share nonsense, important things, stupid things. We laugh, maybe we don't laugh. And it depends, okay? Sometimes it's a very short date and you know right away this person is not for me, take me home. Okay, bye-bye, I'm sorry, I don't know, I have another commitment. And there are sometimes we go into, there's an orech, right? It's a very long date. Okay, and we talk about all kinds of things, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, you reach a point after 1 day, 2 dates, it doesn't matter. Some people do it on the first date, make decisions. I know people who are very happy couples from the first date, they knew that that was it. They discovered the Hamakas Hadas. They discovered that, oh my gosh, this is my person. Okay, this is part of me. And some people go out for 6 months. Everybody's individual, but everybody who makes the commitment, because remember, Das is about commitment also, who makes that commitment, yes, I will marry this person, they reach the Omek Hadas. That's what it is. Why? And then your mother could say, don't marry this person. Your father could say, don't marry this person. And, but you already, it's a wrong time. You should have, convinced me in the first date, not when it's already a decision, right? And we know that the decision of Das is much more, when it comes from the Das, is much more powerful because it's already above intellect. No matter what they're going to tell you about that person, you're already coming from the Das because there's already bond and there's already connection. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. That whole process of dating until the connection is being formed or discovered, we would say, right? It's it's the Bina part. It's Orach of Bina, reaching, blah, blah, blah. Then you reach your Omek Amusak. I'm connected. That would be the Omek Amusak. There is a bond there. Okay, and that's already, you know, a different level. So anyway, so now he didn't talk about this mashal, right? That's already coming as a result of doing a little bit of iyun here and there. And all of a sudden, like, oh, there's actually another mashal for this process. And somebody else could bring a mashal from cooking or from painting or from drawing or from any other type of any activity for the same thing. That's when you are in Omek HaMusak, when you're able to draw a new insight within the same concept.
Okay, so now going forward, he skips a few stages here because he says Hamakas Adas then brings him to the Oimek of Chokhmah. So he left out Orech of Chokhmah and Rochav of Chokhmah, but we understand that you go through that process. He just skipped it. So Hamakas Adas brings to the Oimek of Chokhmah, which is the connection of Chokhmah to that which is above Chokhmah. And then the person is able to awaken the Koach HaMaskil to conceptualize new concepts without limit. So we're not just talking now about a different explanation of the original concept. We're talking about when you go to the level of the Koach, your own Koach HaMaskil, now you have access to completely new concepts without limits. So from the limited or lower concepts that he received from his teacher, he can grasp concepts that are higher than it in successive levels of elevation. And this is called maimek, which is grammatically in the active sense, because he actively engages in bringing out the oimek of Chokhmah and Bina. So from the Koach HaMaskil, he is then able to conceptualize new concepts and also grasp new understandings. As it was mentioned before, that both Chokhmah and Bina are rooted in Koach HaMaskil. So what does it mean that suddenly you're in the active sense? Now, this, just as I'm reading it, this is what I understand. So Mila, you can correct me if I'm wrong. To some extent, as a mashpia, as a makabel, working up the system, you're doing it actively, but in some sense, because you're receiving somebody else's wisdom, you're so-called in passive. You're still working on somebody else's concept. You're working your way up the ladder. But once you get into the process of maimek, then you are activating something in yourself that is completely new. And that's the active tense, and you become mashpia rather than being makabel. That's what I understand over here. How maimek is different from everything else that we've done up until that point. Okay, so we find this is now to just to summarize it. We find that the makabel experience. Tzipi, please, can you stop drawing over here, whoever it is? Thank you. So we find that the makabel experiences all three levels, beginning with the level of iyun, which is the orech of Bina or the Bina of Bina, then going to Hamakas Adas, and then going to maimek, which is the highest. This process is from below to above. Now, what we need to understand is that these three, iyun, Hamakas Adas, and maimek, are not the same as Chokhmah and Bina. These are processes. There's the process of Iyun, there's the process of Amakasadas, and there's the process of Maimek. Okay. From the perspective of the teacher, the Mashpia, who produces the teaching from within himself, there are only two levels. There's Hamakasadas and there's Maimek. He does not require Iyun, since he already has a complete grasp of the entire subject, including all its explanations and analogies, so he is able to grasp the idea as it is, without any garments at all. The only reason he produces the garments is because they are necessary for the makabel. So from up to down, you don't have this Iyun process. You just go, the Mashpia goes from Maimek through Chochmah to Amakasadas and brings it down. So the Mashpia doesn't need to delve into the letters and garments that he produced, in other words, Iyun, because the garments and letters arise in him automatically due to his Amakasadas, the omek of the concept and the omek of the comprehension, meaning the omek of the concept is the omek of Chochmah, and the omek of the comprehension is the omek of Bina. Okay. So that's, kind of a summary of the process of the makabel, beginning with the Iyun, working, the power of Iyun takes him to the oimek of Bina, where a different power of the mind kicks in, which is this Amakasadas, which transports him into this experience of Chochmah, taking him all the way to the oimek of Chochmah, and then Maimek kicks in, and then it's completely different experience. So there are these three energies that take us from being in Chitzonius Bina, like the most external part of Bina, where we're just dealing with information. And slowly we get to this place of where it's not just information anymore. You're starting to experience it and you bonded with it. And then that's like the Hamakasadas. You're starting to sense something. And then when you get to the oimek of Chochmah, I don't even know. To my Chochmah skill. What is that?
Can I just say something?
Become an activator, a creator. Sorry, Yoni. Yes.
So I feel like it's chitas, like when you do chitas and you over years you do it year after year, and each time you do it, you building on what you've learned, and like that's the Iyun, and you suddenly get it much deeper. Like doing it this year, I think I don't remember learning that at all. It's like, but I learned it, but it meant something completely different to me the year before, and has much more clarity this time.
Absolutely. That is the Iyun process. When you go over something over and over, and then things start to, make more sense.
I have a question. I understand that Iyun is a very active process on our part, very trying to understand and going through it. And then you mentioned that Hamakata Dat kicks in. Isn't there something active on our part that we have to do to get that bridge from Omek of Bina to the other side of Chochmah?
That is
Hamakata Dat, what is, it's like, it's not the same as Iyun collecting, reviewing, etc. What type of work is required for Hamakata Dat?
So what I hear the text to be saying is that if you will do the Iyun to the point that the Iyun will bring you to Oimek HaMosag, to the Oimek of Bina, there's suddenly a transition that happens in your experience of learning where you're no longer doing the mechanical learning. Something opens up in your mind, and you are then suddenly in a different experience of mind, which is the Samakhasadas. You're bonded to the material. It's no longer mechanical. It's almost like what comes to mind as a mashal is, if you know anything about science, it's like going from Newtonian science, which is dealing with objects, and you go into quantum. You go into the quantum experience, which is what happens on the inside. And the rules are different. When you're dealing with, like Newtonian physics deals with how large objects function. Quantum mechanics deals with how atoms function, like the inside of the physical objects. And the rules there are very different. It's literally what's happening. We're going from the outside, which is like the letters and objects, the yesh, and we start to go into this place where there's an ayin. And one has, it's almost like you can't describe it. You have to experience it. And he's describing an experience. So in order to know what that experience is, you have to do the iyun to the point on anything, to the point of a makasadas. Perhaps you could say it's like when the dancer becomes the dance. Or, that's another, I don't know, maybe, artists have experienced it, or people who meditate have experienced it, where suddenly you shift into another space. I mean, you could say quite literally, I know with meditation, you could talk about different brain waves. They're different waves, different levels at which the brain functions. And our usual brain function, as you slow that down, you begin to have a different experience of your thoughts. You tap into something different. I'm not saying this is the exact same process. I'm trying to, use it as a mashal for those people who have experienced that. He's describing an experience.
So what I hear from you is that I'm actively working on iyun, and then hamakatadat happens.
Yeah, pretty much. And because remember, we're not forgetting the three the three effects which das has on us. How do we know we are on a das level? How do we know that we are in the das?
Connected.
Exactly. We are so connected. We have omek das. Remember, amakasadas is the omek of das. Okay, so we are able to have such a deep awareness and connection to the subject, right? That nobody can take us away from it. We forget about time. We forget about self. We are so engaged in that thing.
And that comes from the iyun.
Exactly. So the iyun is that process that kind of glues you in slowly, and it's like the two partners, the iyun will bring you to the station of das. Okay, and then all of a sudden you'll find yourself that you cannot live without it. It's, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, for example, like, let's go to the mashal of the spouse, right? Like, nobody just wakes up in the morning, oh, I love Mushki Pinson. I can't live without her. Who is she? You don't even know her, right? It's ridiculous. Like, nobody had this experience. I'm talking about normal people. Right? Again, we're not talking about the son, what's it called? How the Dayan of Cordoba got married, right? And Rambam was born. Like, he saw a dream, go marry, the daughter of a butcher. We're not talking about this prophetic, we're talking about, oh, you go out on a date, you meet a girl, you're interested in her, and ta-da-da, ta-da-da, ta-da. And then after, I don't know, when you need to kind of make a decision, you wake up in the morning and you're like, yeah, I'm marrying her. I love her. Like, I can't live without her. I can't have a day without her, right? it comes, that realization that you are in das comes after a very intense iyun, right? Now, that's just how it is. Like, you can't skip the iyun process. You don't even know the girl, you can't love her. Like, it just, yeah. So the same thing is with us. We see that das kicks in, and we know that the famous saying of Mezri Chamagid, that how can a person be commanded to love Hashem? Like, how can Hashem demand of us? V'ahavta. Like, it's a little bit intrusive. Like, he could demand from us to do mitzvahs, but how can he demand from us v'ahavta? He could demand for us a fear of God. Yeah, Yirat Shamayim. Yeah, we could demand, like, you have to respect, the law. But how can he demand Ava? Ava, it's like commanding of the heart. How can you command your heart? So he says it's truly not a command. It's a byproduct of Shema. When you do Shema properly, V'ahavta is automatic. And we know V'ahavta is das tachton already, right? Because it's a midas. It's the birth of midas. But the Shema takes us to both, to the Hamakasadas and Mamik, and it's also going to bring us to the love and fear and all these things, right? But we're going to do it in chapter 2.
There's a lot of honesty, authenticity in this method. Why? What do I mean? There is an iyun that you're really, really true to the facts, and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then the Hamakat Dat comes, which means Hamakat Dat is not something that you force on yourself. You're not forcing on yourself to say, I love this, or I love this, or I love that. It's not. It's very real that it comes as a result of the facts.
Exactly. And what do you think? We're going to go back to my mashal. What do we do when we discover or we doubt that we made the right choice in our spouses? What everybody says? Do you know your spouse? The more we know about our spouse, the details, what they like, what they don't like, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, what colors and how they think and how they don't think, the more we invest in knowing our spouse, the more we're going to have das in them. That's what everybody says. Go on a date, spend time together. What is this all about? It's because Maim Rabim, right? Everyday routine, having kids, sometimes could remove us from that awareness of us knowing our other, our spouse. You know what I mean? How do you scratch the surface back into the, why you got married in the first place, right? Is through knowing. So we know that knowing, not in the word of das, but knowing the details about the spouse. So the details will awaken back the das. So the bina, remember, if ain't bina and das, and this is just the rule in Pirkei Avos, right? And if ain't das, ain't bina. So they always that, relationship with das are we talking about?
How do you explain him ain't dat, ain't bina?
From up down. Remember, by the mashpia, it's the other way around. By us, we don't have that connection because we don't see the essence. For the mashpia, he sees the essence.
Okay, so
and that's what allows him to go through the pain of bina.
Okay, yeah.
He has to enclose it in details and package it and all that stuff, right? So by the makablim, if ain't bina and das, by the mashpia, if ain't das, ain't bina. He cannot package with love all the details, the maimer, whatever that is, and not lose the essence of the concept, okay? And so we can unwrap it and get back to the original idea. So that's the dimensions.
Okay. I think that we should stop here because we are at the hour.
So-
And
Can I just ask a question about the meditations? I just want to understand, is this, am I writing what a meditation is like, or am I describing an actual something that, so I thought I'm going to cheat, and I happen to be writing up something about Hashgacha Pratis. I'm going to use that process of how I'm developing this idea and maybe forming it into an article and use that as a meditation.
No, we're not asking to create a content. We're asking to meditate on the levels that we discussed.
Oh,
But
okay,
iyun, the level of iyun, a short description.
okay.
Okay, the level of omek of musak, what does this mean?
but surely you can use an example.
Yeah, you could, but
Theory.
before the example, I think it's important to keep the skeleton, right, of the structure. And then on the way down, and then you could use it, let's say, whatever the concept you want to do, and show how it goes up the levels. And it comes out. That would be like a profound if you could do it. But let's first determine the skeleton, because we can't put meat if we don't have bones.
Right. It's so funny that when I had this idea, something sparked this idea that maybe I'll write it up like an article. And as I was about Hashgacha Pratis, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to have a reichav, an oirech, and oimek. Like, right away I said, I have to have these ingredients. And
That's great. And I think that's the core of writing a good essay, right? I remember taking a lot of courses on writing, and I think they say, like, you need to have your thesis. Yeah, this is like the keyhole, right? They make it like this, and then like that, right? So it's like you need to write your thesis, then you need to develop the idea, bring different examples, and then, first broaden the concept and then bring in the examples. So it's basically what it is, the omek, the rochav, to explain the concept, and then bring in the examples, and then conclude. But yeah.
yeah, okay.
Okay,
All right.
thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
God
for
bless.
joining.
Bye.
And hopefully joining and enjoying, right?
Very much.
Very much so.
Very much. Very
Thank you.